Welcome to Unsigned518. I'm here with Jay Mullen. How's it going, man?
It's going. It's going well, man.
Is Jay for short for Jason?
It is. It is short for Jason. Yes.
Nice. And you are, because people who listen to the show, obviously, and in the scene, know who your brother James is.
Correct.
And he's your older brother.
Older brother. Yes.
Okay.
I'm the middle of three.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we actually, even though James and I go back couple years and we know each other, we played several shows. I'm sitting in with C's Atlantis on bass in 2 weeks. But we've never met.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
This
I think we may have played on one show together, one of the Putnam shows. But I don't know, or maybe I was just at a show where C's and you played together.
Yeah, it might have been because I don't think we've. I mean, and also I'm old, so
it's also possible,
maybe, or
but
maybe
this is our first cordial.
Yes, this is our
yes.
first introduction, and just like with a lot of guests that come on, we went back and forth 100 times to try to figure out to make something work. So it's always fun, those. Some of them are very easy, and then sometimes it's well, what about this? Ooh, I can't do that. What about this? Ooh, I can't. So when it does work out, I really love that because I'm that means you were yeah, I really want to be on the show because it took us 3 or 4 times to make it happen. So
yeah, man. I mean, I really love what you've been doing with the show. Obviously, having my older brother on, I know that he had experience here, and just seeing the 518 community as it is as a local music scene, it's been really cool, and seeing this grow with that has been really awesome.
Yeah, so. And that's really what the show's been about from the beginning. Is trying to make, because it's for me, it's always going to be about the people, and I've always been someone that likes all kinds of music, and socially when I was younger, it I felt you had to pick you know what I mean, you had to pick a pocket. But I was but I sure, I love Metallica and punk rock, but I also really love Steely Dan. But I couldn't tell anybody back then, and so now that I'm in a scene, I'm always it's all about the people. Bring the people together. The type of music they're making doesn't matter, because you'd be surprised at how many people like many kinds of music.
Exactly. I agree.
That's my little piece. But so speaking of music, I really just kind of want to go back with you. Obviously you with James as your brother, he's very musical. I'm sure music has been a part of you for a while. But I want to kind of hear your story of your relationship with music. Leading kind of up to now.
Yeah, I mean, I find it very interesting that James and I are musicians and play in bands and play in shows and play music, write music, play out, because while music has always been a part of our lives, my mom, huge fan of Bono and U2 in Chicago and Dave Matthews, we always had music playing in the house, so that's always been ingrained in me. But she didn't play piano or play guitar or anything. She sang, right. But luckily I was always able to be in a chorus, or I picked up the violin when I was in middle school and was able to dip my toes in that way. But once I got to high school, James had an acoustic guitar that I would steal, and when he wasn't around, and try to learn chords to songs. First song I learned was The A-Team by Ed Sheeran. Great song. But I didn't really start to play out or start to write more material, I suppose, until I was in college. I was living with my roommate at the time, Brendan Crowley. Shout out to him. Living in Vermont right now. But he and I wrote some material together while we were out there for school, and ended up starting a group that was known as The Spot at the time, and that was right when COVID happened. And so COVID, we had a handful of rehearsals kind of at the end of 2019 going into 2020, and we were this is really great. It's going to be a really good experience. We're going to be heading in a summer where we can kind of play out. We're starting to write some music. And then when the unfortunate thing happened and we all had to go home from school, Brendan at the time lived in Connecticut, and so he was kind of out He couldn't really commit to anything. And so it was me, Greg Offerdew, who I'm sure you've seen him maybe doing some things up in like Lake George, Queensberry. He played Adirondack Winery yesterday doing steel drum stuff. He was the drummer for us. Michael Bassford was the lead guitarist. And we were all sort of based like in this area, so we kind of kept rehearsing and stuff. We're trying to figure out what to do. Throughout the pandemic, like Mike and I would kind of be out in the Saratoga parks and just kind of playing acoustic, trying to jam together, trying to get some sort of chemistry and songwriting stuff done. And there was a few times I remember it was really awesome. Like we would have some kind of families walking by and listening to us, and he's just noodling away, and it was a really fun experience. And through trials and tribulations, members came and went, and most recently I've been playing under the moniker Jay Mullen and the Spotters, with the backing of a major faction from the band, Tom's House. And they played some shows. They played a lot of Putnam shows. They play sort of like a funk jam style music. And so that's when I play with a band around here, it's with them. Otherwise, it's been a lot of solo stuff for me. And that's sort of brought me to songwriting here today in 2024.
So, and now that you're, going as Jay Mullen and the Spotters, like, how much of do you have a catalog of original music that you've built up going back to like that pre-pandemic stuff, and now you're keeping it alive through that?
Yeah. So what I would say, there's going to be, we've recorded some of that stuff together. It hasn't come out yet. There's been a lot of things because I'm currently living in Burlington, Vermont, and kind of taking the train back and forth here when I got shows. Right. And we were kind of trying to get schedules to work and all that. So there's going to be kind of like a Jay Mullen and the Spotters, like with them, that sort of creative engine. And I'm also going to be recording stuff like sort of myself, more like solo, like DIY kind of project when I'm out in Vermont, and trying to get some of that stuff also just out there, because it is sort of different creative energies, and I want to keep those kind of separate, which will be fun moving forward.
Right. And talking about like recording stuff, is there anything out there now that's recorded, or is there something?
Unfortunately, not yet. We had recorded a demo of one of our songs, Mile 9.5, which hasn't gone out yet. It's still kind of in like the mastering process, and that can kind of that can get stuck in the. I mean, I'm sure you know exactly how that is. So, but we're working on it.
Nice. That's all. But you did bring a guitar. So, and we will play or I'll ask you to play a song in a little bit. But like being with a band and like writing songs, and like obviously you can perform solo, and like that's something that for me personally, like I've never been able to like balance both. You know what I mean? Like I could like try to be someone that plays solo shows, but like it would take every bit of my energy. Yeah. And then I can play bass in a punk band, and that takes every bit of my energy. But like to do both, to work in an outfit and to work solo, how do you find the switch to like,
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's sort of based on the fact that I've sort of had to force myself to learn how to do it because of the nature of me living in a different state and having to travel back and forth for both. But it is tricky, but I've always very much loved, and I wanted to cultivate this energy with the Spot all the way at the beginning, is I didn't want it to be like my band initially. Like obviously now it's more like a lot of my songwriting has kind of gone into it, and they're like their own sort of entity, so they kind of form the Spotters in that regard. But I always wanted to sort of cultivate a creative space where everyone can kind of, throw something at the canvas and see if it sticks, right, and see how it looks, and we can formulate whatever it is around it. And I'm always going to want to continue to do that. So whether like I have solo shows. Like I have a run of solo shows that are booked now through July, which I can talk about a little bit later on. But I am hoping that there's some spotters gigs that we can book in throughout the summer as well, because I love getting together with those guys and even just jamming and messing around and having that creative section of my brain itched. I don't think I'm ever gonna not yearn for something like that. So
yeah, there's just there's something about working with other creatives like towards the same, you know, there's like that's you know, you can't replace that. To me, I mean, to me anyway, like you just can't replace. And I don't want to be like, oh, I'm like hiding behind them, but like when you're part of something, it's like you're part of, you know, it's, and when you're by yourself, it's just like, here I am.
There's something, I mean? There's something, especially in the songwriting process too. Like one of the songs that I'm playing on the show today, I wrote in a span of a couple of days at my mom and dad's place, and I was kind of in like a zone myself, and that was like, I love getting in those spaces, but the collaborative energy that you can have with somebody else, like going back to the start of the spot with my roommate Brendan, he was like a RA, so he was like on duty one night, making sure no one was too intoxicated or whatever RAs are supposed to do on a university campus. And there was like an hour left of his shift, and it was kind of a slow night, so I went over and I brought my acoustic, and we just wrote the song in like less than an hour, and just like that was kind of what the song became. And just like it was that experience, it just like happened, and I really don't know how else to really speak on it. Just like that sort of like euphoria that you feel of like something just kind of like, I feel like it would have, I don't know, maybe happened either way, but we had to be there to formulate it. You know what I mean? Like it was sort of like just like a right place, right time.
Right.
Like
and the working off someone else.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like solving a puzzle.
Yep.
Where like you do one little thing, and then the person you're with is like, well, what if we did this thing here? Right. And then you're like, ooh, and then what about this? And then that's how, that's why working with a band and especially people who do other instrument, I have a lot of respect for, because, I play acoustic guitar and I play bass in the band, but like playing leads and writing riffs and doing all that stuff, and like, I respect that, because I'm like, I can't fucking do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like that's why like I get a charge out of like when we're playing and I'm watching Ryan and Lonnie like doing their guitar things. I'm like, that's so fucking rad that I get to be a part of that.
Yeah, I like to say I can like fumble my way around instruments. Like I can kind of like maybe give some sort of beat on the drum, or maybe like I recorded bass on like the James song that he put out over the holiday season or whatever with that EP, which was fun. But I wouldn't consider myself like a bassist. You know what I mean? Like
neither would I. Yeah, and I mean same. Like I could keep like a steady beat on the drums, and like I can play some stuff on the piano, like simple things. But like to go all in on an instrument to me is like so. I mean, it's impressive.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's like really impressive to like. But so speaking of music and guitars and solo stuff and songs, should you grab the guitar and play a song right now?
Yeah, sure. I can go ahead and play my song "Awoken." I wrote this song, like I said, in a stretch of time last year where I was staying with my folks for about a week or two. Living in Vermont, I had a friend who was from the Midwest who was there for the year. And there were just kind of conversations about sort of like a homesickness of sorts. And that's just through some of those conversations, that's sort of how the song came to be. So hope you like it.
All right, cool. So this is Jay Mullen, Awoken, and then we'll be right back.
Visible clear as day,
The roads close at midnight, and you're my ride. I can see I've awoken, 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 I can see this city don't feel like home. I miss that Midwestern warmness. New England shaped me into an icicle. Fall into your hand, you'll wish I missed. Oh, you'll wish I missed. I can see I've awoken, 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 I can see that I need you now. Your kind eyes, beautiful smile, infectious vibes. You don't know how hard it can be, passing through a world not built for me. Before the first time I can see I've awoken, 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 I can see I've awoken,
All right, that was Awoken, Jay Mullen. And so, we were talking earlier before you played the song about recorded stuff. You said you'd been working on some demos and you're up in Burlington and doing some gigs and solo gigs. But what's the path to get some of the songs recorded?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of the Jay Mullen and the Spotters stuff, that setup is pretty much set in stone. Like, we have all of the setup and everything organized and situated. It's more about getting schedules situated. So really it's trying to work with them around when they've got any sort of Tom's House obligations that they're going to be rehearsing for and recording their own music, and when I'll be able to kind of travel back and forth. So hopefully getting some of those batches of songs kind of wrapped up and finished. I would love to say by the end of the summer for that, but that could be ambitious with travel. So I would just say by the end of the year, to be safe. And then in terms of my own solo stuff, just more solo, I would say probably same kind of time frame, just because I'll also be trying to figure out, I'm moving to a new spot
right
over the coming weeks, trying to situate how I can record in that space, or figure out how I can utilize a space out in Burlington that I can rent out with funds that I can somehow get out of thin air, maybe.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I've got some microphones for set up for just solo acoustic stuff, so I can totally get something out. I'd been toying with this idea of just kind of doing a kind of solo live performance in my kitchen or something, and just putting that out on a Bandcamp thing. So maybe look out for that in the coming weeks, even, because I wouldn't take that much back end work if I'm just here it is live and go for it. But so that could be something to look out for the gram on. But yeah, and end of the year for anything set in stone, I would say.
Nice. Yeah, and that's what I love about this day and age, so to speak, is that the ability to just put something out. If you wanted, really you need a microphone or two, and an Instagram account.
Exactly.
Like that's really all you need, and you can at least like be like, hey, I'm working on some shit, and here's like a, here's a stripped down version of it. Here's what it's going to sound like.
Yeah, exactly.
And, 20 years ago, you really couldn't do. I mean, you could do that, I guess, because like YouTube probably existed 20 years ago.
Yeah, now we're really dating ourselves with what year we think
right.
it is.
Totally. I'm like, I just turned 51, and I'm like,
gosh.
20 years ago. Oh wait, no, maybe I shouldn't go down this road. I'm gonna, 20 years ago. You remember when the Atari came out?
Yeah, exactly. exactly.
Yeah. So end of the year, most likely gonna have some recorded stuff, and I mean the other thing too is that being in unsigned bands and local bands and doing what we do like on our own, like you got to fit it in with your life. You know what I mean? You got to fit it in with life, and like that kind of hit when you're like, well, I got to see what I can do in the new place.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You're like, I don't know what's gonna happen because I got to get there and figure it out first. And then make shit happen.
A lot of trying to get settled while things are moving,
Right.
But that's just life, you got to be able to work around it, I suppose.
Yeah. And when you write because I'm someone that like songwriting is like newer to me, and actually in the band now I've like honestly taken kind of a back seat to the writing, because I have two guys like Lonnie and Ryan are really good at like writing and doing like, and then have it go to this chord and this and I'm like, I play root notes. You know what I mean? Like, you just tell me what root notes to play, and like it's just, I don't know. But like as a songwriter yourself, like do you find like you hear something in your head and then you try to get it out to the guitar, or do you grab the guitar and use that as a see what comes out of that?
I would say it's a mix of both of those and just other things as well. Like I've found, times where I'll have sort of like a lyric, maybe more like a line of, poetry in nature of like a thought that I can be like, I could maybe sort of formulate that into this idea of like a song title or something that, like if I had like a voice recording of just the guitar trying to get some sort of motivation that way or vibe check to see what kind of song would sort of come out with how I'm feeling, I will usually kind of save a bunch of those, listen to them, and kind of try to come up with lines that way. But I loved the way maybe it was John Mayer, but I don't want to give him credit. He doesn't need it. If it wasn't him, but somebody talking about songwriting, comparing it to surfing, and it's like sometimes you can go out to surf and like you're ready for it, but the wave isn't there, and sometimes like you're either there and you're not ready for it, or you're not there and the wave, like the perfect wave comes. But there's sometimes where you're there and you're on it and the wave comes and it's amazing and great. And that's sort of like that, week stretch last year where I wrote a handful of songs. I sort of felt like I was in like a flow state of like things going right. I'm getting the motivation from what I'm playing that kind of matches with the ideas that are kind of being formulated in my head, or in my notes app or whatever. So a mix of everything. I don't really have any set way. I want to try and get into more of like a routine of songwriting. Like there was I read Jeff Tweedy's book, blanking on the title of it now, but it was like a songwriting sort of like tip book, and I loved it, but there was like a lot of talk about like exercises to do, and to be able to sit down and kind of focus on that. I would really like to enjoy to do that, I guess.
Is it how to write one song?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
I just googled
There
it
you
for
go.
the listeners. It didn't just come to me, but yeah, how to write one song.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. Jeff Tweedy's a great songwriter. I've always just really been drawn to, in terms of music, lyrics. I think, I think there's some songwriters like Father John Misty. I think lyrically is great. I think Mahali from Twiddle is great. Jeff Tweedy is great. Noah Khan, I think now with his sort of, he's becoming more mainstream with more folk music. I say more mainstream. That sounds like I've been living under a rock. The kid, like he's huge. But yeah, I think that I always kind of search for lyrics that stick to me and that are like well written, and I try to do that as well. Maybe I fail or maybe I pass. I guess that's for you to decide. But
do we want to play another song?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can play one more for you.
Which one? Which one is this one?
So this one's called "It's Just Life." I don't know if there are any fans of The Bear out there, the television program.
I love The Bear.
So there was one of the monologues he had from one of like the AA meetings of like a posthumous, relative or whatever, that really inspired this song lyrically. So I'll just leave that there, and I'm excited for June 27th when The Bear season 3 comes out. And yeah.
All right, cool.
Hope you enjoy it.
Well, let's listen to It's Just Life, Jay Mullen, and then we'll be right back to wrap it up.
Every time you turn to look away, you hear every dog will have his day. Try to remind yourself to breathe, but there's always another shoe falling your way. Looking down at you from the stars, I know it's easy to get lost in the dark. Well, it's just life, don't let it get you down. We've all been around. Sky isn't falling. Learn to be present in the moment. Sometimes they try too hard to keep their word. Promises get broken. Looking down at you from the stars, I know it's easy to get lost in the dark. It's just life, don't let it get you down. We've all been around. It's just life. It's just life. It's just life. Every time you turn to look away, you hear every dog will have his day. Try to remind yourself to breathe, but there's always another shoe falling your way. Looking down at you from the stars, I know it's easy to get lost in the dark. It's just life, don't let it get you down. We've all been around.
All right, that was It's Just Life. Jay Mullen performed live here in the Dazzle Den. So, Jay, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come down here. I really appreciate it, and it was a great conversation. Great to finally meet you.
Of course, likewise.
And before we go, I want to do like I do with all my guests and give you a chance to say what I refer to as your gratitudes. So, microphone is all yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you again for providing me with this opportunity. It's been great, and I hope to come back in the future for other things. I will run through the list of kind of gigs I've got coming up. I've got a May 31st this Friday from when we're recording this at Sweetside Records. That's being run by House of M Entertainment. James Mullen will be on that bill. Angelina Valenti will be on that bill. She's so great.
Yeah.
And a Bandit, Queen of Sorrows, who is a traveling artist. She'll also be on the bill. It's like a solo kind of more singer-songwritery bill there. I believe it's a $10 cover at Sweetside Records in Glens Falls. Please come. It'll be a lot of fun. Then the next day I'm playing a 3-hour set at Adirondack Winery, 4 p.m. start for that. June 21st, I have my first Burlington, Vermont booking, which is pretty cool, at the Venetian Soda Lounge. I'm playing 2 hours with Jessie Taylor, who's in a bunch of projects out there. Look her up on Spotify. She's great. Then June 24th, I'm going to be a member of James Mullen and the Strangers, who are recording their live album show at the Jive Hive Live, which will be really exciting. It'll be my first time there. That'll be really sick. Super excited for that. And then July 18th is my first time playing the Glens Falls Food Truck Corral on those Thursdays. So July 18th, 4:30 p.m., I'll be playing and enjoying some food truck eating, which will be great. And the Sure Factory is a great place. I love it there. So that's all I got.
All right. Well, that is Jay Mullen. I am Andy Scullin. This is Unsigned518, and I'll see you on the road. Unsigned518 is produced and hosted by me, Andy Scullin. New episodes are available every week wherever you stream podcasts. If you would like to help support the show, please like and subscribe wherever you are listening, or you could buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/unsigned518. If you would like to advertise on the show, send me an email at unsigned518@gmail.com. And to be a guest on the show, reach out to me through Instagram at unsigned518. Take care of one another, and I'll see you next week.